Over on the west side.
All right, good evening. It is 6:01. I would like to call to order the regular meeting for the Planning Commission. Today is October 25th, 2023. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, we will have our roll call, please. Staff roll call.
Committee member Commissioner Brody,
Present.
Commissioner Dustin,
Here.
Commissioner Wright,
Here.
and Chair Chang.
Here.
And Vice Chair Boyle has an excused absence, and alternate Commissioners Okazaki and Shower are also absent.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the record, we do have 4 individuals of the Planning Commission present, which we still have quorum, so we will proceed with this evening's meeting. So let's start with the agenda. The agenda is posted 72 hours prior to each meeting at the following locations. That would be City Hall, Crowell Public Library, as well as the Stoneman Building. The agenda is also posted on the city's website. At this time, we will see if there's any members of the public here that would like to speak on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the Planning Commission procedures and processes here. Each commissioner has received plans and staff comments and has reviewed every item on the agenda and has visited each site. The general order for hearing each case will be as follows. Staff will discuss the case and provide background information and a recommendation. I will ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to comment on the proposal. The hearing will then be open to the public, and I will ask for comments for, against, or about the project. In all cases, please come forward and state your name and address. When speaking on an item, please do not repeat comments previously made, but rather acknowledge agreement with previous speakers, or please present any additional comments. At the conclusion of the comments, the public hearing will be closed, and I will ask for comments from each of the commissioners. Most of the cases will involve variances, CUPs, or design review, and the commission will discuss and act on each of these individually. In each case, variances will be considered first, and then CUPs, and finally design review. If there is no motion for approval or denial, the Planning Commission has the option of continuing the application to a future meeting. In the event of a continuance or denial, it is hoped that the applicant will have heard comments during the public comment period and during deliberations that will be useful in resubmitting an application. It is also important for the property owner to understand that once a project is approved by the commission, the drawings become legal documents. If any of the changes are made to the project subsequent to approval without obtaining proper approval of those changes, then the property owner is in fact breaking the law. There is a risk of having to change the project back to the originally approved design or paying a fine to the city of San Marino equal to the greater of 5% of the project value or $2,500, and then resubmitting the changes back to the project, to the commission for review of the project. It is also important to understand there is a 15-day appeal period after action has been taken for the applicant or any interested party to request city council to review and act on the case. The commission will usually take items in order shown on the agenda. Occasionally, it may take items out of order for a large number of folks present. That item might be taken ahead of others. The commission will not start any agenda item after 11 p.m. Items not heard will be carried over to an adjourned meeting on to the next regular meeting. So at this time, it appears we do have a large contingent of neighbors and community members for the third agenda item, I believe, which is the design review case DR 23-50, DR 23-90, and DR 23-91 for the project at 2134 South Oaknell. Is that correct, staff, that we have a large contingent?
Yes.
Okay. Given that being that the case, is the applicant for agenda item number 3 present? Yes. Okay. Then we will move that item to our first item in order to accommodate for the members of the public that are present. I guess we can start then. So staff, can we have a report, please, on agenda item number 3?
This is Associate Planner Camelia Martinez. Item number 3 is for the consideration of approval for design review case DR 23-50, DR 23-90, and DR 23-91 to construct a new 2-story home with an attached 3-car garage and the removal of 3 heritage trees at 2134 South Oak Knoll Avenue. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing single-family residence and all associated existing buildings and proposes to construct a new 5,935 square foot 2-story residence with attached 690 square foot 3-car garage. The applicant proposes a new 3-foot tall wall in the front yard and a 6-foot tall wall in the rear yard and the removal of 3 heritage trees. This project is located on an R1 zone lot within Area District 2. Pursuant to the San Marino Municipal Code, this project requires 3 design review actions. 21-88 is for the new replacement residential structure. 23-09 is for the new front yard wall, and 23-10 is for the new rear yard wall. The project includes the following proposal not subject to Planning Commission review: the new front yard paving, including a new walkway and driveway under the 25% impervious area threshold, the construction of a new pool with pool equipment, a detached 227.5 square foot pergola, and the removal of 1 heritage tree, specifically tree number 23. As part of this project, in total, there is a proposal to remove 4 trees: tree 15, 16, 22, and 23. The removal of trees 15, 16, and 22 are subject to the commission approval, since the request is relative to the proposed construction of the residence. The removal of tree number 23 is subject to the community development director's approval with the professional guidance of the city's urban forester. The applicant is proposing to replace the trees as shown on the landscape plan with the tree replacements. Staff would like to note a correction to the staff report in this segment of the staff report that currently says approval of the removal of the following trees under the tree replacement section, but it should say approval for the addition of the following tree replacements. Additionally, the applicant has provided today colored elevations that go with the landscape plan. The landscape plan hasn't changed, but those large plans are showing the side elevation of the proposed landscape, or rendering of the proposed landscape, I should say. The subject is not identified on the city's historic resource survey report. As part of the neighborhood input letter process, the applicant received 15 letters for approval and 7 for no responses and 0 for objection. The following neighbors approved the project with added conditions: 2085, 2094, 2126, 2159, 2142, 2118, and 2062 Cortland Avenue. As a correction to the staff report, we also need to add 2110 Cortland should be listed as a neighbor in support with the conditions of approval listed under the neighborhood input letter attachment, which I believe is also additionally outlined in a document that a member of the public gave you just before the meeting. Staff has added conditions 1 through 4 as conditions of approval. The applicant is in agreement with the conditions of approval that are stated. Additionally, staff is not recommending opposing conditions 5 and 6. However, staff finds that by adding a condition of approval stating that the Public Works Director shall determine and approve any restrictions regarding the location of construction vehicles and equipment of the offloading of materials would be more conductive and would also be in consultation with the police and fire department with the Public Works Director's determination. As part of the whole, the project is proposing the new 5,935 square foot 2-story residence. The first floor will total in 3,122 square feet of livable area. The second floor will be 2,813 square feet of livable area. The applicant is proposing to use a mixture of fixed encasement windows from Pella Architectural Series throughout the home, and is proposing to use a 2-piece mission clay tile and Santa Barbara blend color, both of which are part of our pre-approved roof material and window material list. The front new wall will be 3 feet tall, made of the CMU and in a Dunn Edwards Swiss coffee color stucco to match the main residence, with a stone cap to match the rear wall. The project also includes a driveway gate to the north and a centered pedestrian gate. The driveway gate will be 5 foot 6 inches tall, made of wrought iron, and with pilasters to match that are also 5 foot 6 inch tall. The pedestrian gate will be 4 foot tall wrought iron gate with 4 foot pilasters. The landscaping in front of this new wall will be of Japanese boxwood hedges along the entire front length of the wall. The rear property line wall will be a 6 foot tall stone veneer wall with a 6 foot tall solid wrought iron pedestrian gates not visible from the street in the way that they're orientated. A landscape path will be improved in front of the wall with the wax leaf privet hedge, and it will front the entire exterior length of the wall. This project is exempt from CEQA under Article 19, Section 15301, Class 3. Staff is able to make the required findings for a new home. 1, that the proposed structure is compatible with the neighborhood. 2, that the proposed structure is designed and will be developed in a manner which balances the reasonable expectation of privacy of persons residing on contiguous properties with the reasonable expectations of applicants to develop their property within the restrictions of this code. 3, in the case of a building addition, the proposal is compatible with the existing building, which includes roof line. 4, that the colors and materials are consistent and match the existing building or structure. Separately, the findings for a new wall are that the proposed fence wall, pilaster, yard wall, or retaining wall is architecturally compatible with the existing residence, that the proposed fence, gate, pilaster, yard wall, or retaining wall is consistent with the size and location of fences, gates, pilasters, and yard walls and retaining walls on the block on which the property is located. And 3, that the proposed fence, gate, pilaster, yard wall, or retaining wall preserves sight lines and is otherwise located in a manner not to create a hazard to pedestrians or vehicle traffic. If the commission, after the public hearing, feels there is evidence to support each finding, they should approve the project. Conversely, if the commission feels that they cannot make one or more of the required findings based upon the information presented, they should suggest a condition of approval to address the relevant concern. And if one cannot be crafted to address the concern, then they should deny the project. Staff finds that the proposed project meets all the required findings and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project with the added conditions. A, that the existing trees and other vegetation shall remain on the property throughout construction and shall be adequately maintained prior to starting and during construction. The exemption is the trees that were approved to be removed. B, that adequate irrigation shall be provided on both sides of the rear yard wall along Cortlandt. C, that the existing rear hedge shall remain in place during construction until the approved landscaping has been installed. D, the driveway upon Cortlandt shall be removed and a new curb shall be installed before any demolition or construction. And finally, E, that the Public Works Director shall determine and approve any restrictions regarding the location of construction vehicles and equipment and the offloading of materials. Staff is available to answer any questions. Our urban forester is also available to answer any questions, and the applicant is here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, staff, for the report. Are there any planning commissioners that would like to ask questions of staff regarding this project? Seeing none. All right. Is the applicant present? If you could please come forward and state your name and address.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Arthur Fong. I'm the project architect. My address is 713 West Duarte Road in Arcadia. We're presenting this project tonight for the second time. I don't know if you recall, but we were here earlier in the year with a different proposal, and it was, I guess it was disastrous. That's the best way to describe it. But, however, the results of that meeting helped us to better understand the project and to approach it with fresh eyes and a whole new perspective. We reconsidered nearly every aspect of the house to meaningfully adjust our ambitions to align with our neighbors' expectations and weighing the features that were critical to my clients versus those of lesser importance. Moreover, we communicated these ideas with our neighbors sooner, more frequently, and we attended to their needs more responsively. On the house, we revisited the earlier ideas that we were working on and chose an architectural style more in keeping with the neighborhood than the previous style. The house before U2 is a Spanish colonial house. We chose this architectural style because Spanish colonial houses often appear playful and irreverent, and sometimes even quirky. It allows for a level of playfulness that we were admittedly missing in the previous design, and the composition of the exterior elevations more directly reflects the interior program. Early Spanish colonial houses were simple rectangular shapes constrained by the materials available at the time they were built, but they were nonetheless expressive and beautiful through the detailing and composition. And we wanted to continue that tradition with the massing, also based on rectangular forms, but centered around the central courtyard. Our design incorporates other Spanish colonial features, such as a low-pitched roof with short exposed eave rafter tails, with integrated rain gutter system, the use of red two-piece barrel-shaped clay tiles, deep-set openings on all sides with purposely oversized openings at the entry for dramatic effect, Juliet balconies anchoring both ends of the house, and a stucco exterior consisting of a two finished coat system that results in an irregular, semi-smooth appearance, often referred to as Santa Barbara Mission finish. As compared to the previous design, the total square footage of the house was reduced, as well as the lot coverage. To achieve this, we decreased the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, consolidated rooms, and improved interior circulation. Furthermore, we dropped the plate heights for both floors and the overall building height, allowing for all roof areas to reach a natural ridge. In comparison to the previous proposal, we're preserving more trees this time around while exceeding the minimum requirement for replacement trees. To improve convenience, our new driveway approach on Oak Knoll is farther away from our neighbor to the north. And as an alternative to a solid concrete driveway, we're using rock aggregate to improve percolation and lessen the driveway's impact on an adjacent oak tree. Also with the added benefit of giving the house a rustic casual feel, which we like. So for mutual privacy and to preserve the beloved magnolia tree in the back, we moved the swimming pool and pool equipment to the interior of the property and away from Cortland Avenue. Overall, I believe this proposal is more compatible with the neighborhood and more sensitive to the existing site conditions. So we're hoping to move forward with this design. But just quickly, so our livable area has been reduced by 360 square feet compared to the previous design, and the lot coverage has been reduced by 1,161 square feet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicant from, yes, Commissioner Dustin?
The driveway is described as crushed granite. Is that loose or set in epoxy or some sort of
The
binder?
landscape architect is here. He can answer, you better answer your question.
Be loose.
If you can just also introduce your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Manuel Garcia, landscape architect. My address is 228 East Camden Street, Glendora, California.
I'm sorry, the gravel will be unbound. It's just going to be loose.
Yeah, loose, but it'll be on a material to hold it together. So I have it on the plan. It's kind of a mesh material,
Okay.
and that way it keeps it from moving around and creating ruts and stuff. But yeah, we need to maintain it to be loose so the not only get permeability, but also let air circulate from out of the roots of the tree.
All right. And then back to the architect. Can you describe the stucco finish again? You said Santa Barbara Mission finish. I'm not familiar with that term. I'm familiar with a Santa Barbara finish. But your materials board doesn't have an actual sample of the stucco. It's just the color. So I need to know.
Right, it's a two finish coat system, so they apply the finish coat twice. So there's deliberate imperfections in the coat, and also it's not smooth, it's semi-smooth.
It's not going to be that super smooth.
No.
Like you said, okay.
Right.
That's what a Santa Barbara finish is. So I was concerned about that. All right. And then, let's see. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Yes, just for the record, alternate Commissioner Okazaki has arrived, and so we have a quorum of 5 commissioners.
I just want to point out that I just came back from Japan last night, but I did not know that I was supposed to be here, but I was watching the Zoom meeting. Then I heard my name and I noticed that Shelley wasn't here. So I had to get out of my shorts and my t-shirt and get dressed to be here. Fortunately, we're very close as a city, so only took an extra 5 minutes longer than my undressed and dressed. But anyway, I had a question. You mentioned that the driveway was further away from your northern neighbor, but the
Compared to the
existing
first-
driveway is right in the middle right now.
Compared to the first proposal.
Or the first proposal, sorry. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant from commissioners? Seeing none. All right, thank you very much. You may step down. We'll open it up to public comment at this time. If there's members of the public who'd like to come forward to speak for, against, or about the project, now would be the time. If you could please step forward and state your name and address. Sorry, do we actually have staff? Do we actually have? You'll call it the name.
Mr.
Sorry.
Updike, why don't you speak first?
Good evening. My name is Bill Updike. I live at 2110 Cortland Avenue, San Marino, directly in back of the project across Cortland. So I'm directly in back of the project. First of all, I'd like to say that the architect and the owners, since the last meeting, have really been good on trying to work with our group on Cortland Avenue to satisfy our concerns. And that's why we submitted, and I was kind of the principal architect of the 6 conditions, and the owners and the architect fully agreed to those. And the staff graciously adopted conditions 1 through 4. They felt, as the staff report indicated, that they couldn't adopt conditions 5 and 6. Condition 5 is all equipment and construction crews shall enter off of Oak Knoll and not Cortland. 6 is no parking of trucks or construction crews shall be permitted on Cortland. All of that was agreed to by the owners and the architect. And in the materials that you have, there's an email which confirms that they have agreed to that, and they said that if we sent it on, that it would be part of the approvals. So I'm here to urge the commission. I think they had the power to adopt those 2 conditions 5 and 6, and I would urge them to do so. Mr. Hawk, who lives two doors to the south, is going to speak a little further on that subject as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Staff, you have a list of speakers. You can bring up the next speaker.
Yes, Mr. Hawk.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Hawk, 2126 Cortland, resident of Cortland for 47 years. Bill has given you the punchline for my remarks, but if you'll permit me to read it, they are brief. The email of 9/15/23 attached is Exhibit A, which is the back of the handout that I distributed earlier, which came from the project AIA and Miss Maya Ho, the daughter and representative of the family, the ownership family, agreed to these conditions 1 through 6. As interlineated on that Exhibit A. Despite the agreement between the principals Conditions 5 and 6 have not been submitted to you and therefore are not included in the conditions of approval for the subject project. We, the Cortland residents, respectfully request conditions 5 and 6 of Exhibit A be considered for approval under public comments agenda for October 25th, 23, specifically item number 3, title 2134, South Oak Knoll Farm, in place of the existing agenda item 4E. The foundation for the request is 1I. Cortland residents have requested it. 2, all principal parties have agreed to the inclusion. And 3, access for Oak Knoll to subject site is adequate for construction, parking, and deliveries. Thus, Cortland Avenue avoids construction-related traffic, congestion, noise, equipment and deliveries, queuing up, and risk to children playing on Cortland. Respectfully submitted by the residents. But I would like to add one postscript, and that is that it is predictably certain that without conditions 5 and 6, that the conditions of 5 and 6 then will be will result in repeated calls to the city and or Public Works Director to respond to the breaches of conditions 5 and 6 that weren't set forth. On behalf of the principals on Cortland, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Staff, if you could address the next individual to come up.
Habib?
Karen Habib, and I live on Oak Knoll, 2230 South Oak Knoll, which is between Huntington Drive and Cortland. I don't have numbers and I don't know all the things that we were talking about. But what I am concerned about is that these are city streets. And as a resident, you can't deny someone to park on your city street. This is the city street. These construction vehicles are fairly large. Oak Knoll is a very narrow street. There's only enough room for 2 cars, one going one direction, one going the other, to patch each other comfortably. If a large vehicle is parked on Oak Knoll, then the traffic has to go around this large vehicle, which means they have to pass over the center line, facing the oncoming traffic, to go around the vehicle to be safe again. Now, Oak Knoll is a passageway from Huntington Drive all the way up to Pasadena, all the way to the 210 freeway. So everybody and their brother is using Oak Knoll as a passageway to go from Huntington Drive up to the 210 freeway, which means that there's a lot of traffic going back and forth. I have seen as many as 10 to 15 cars go past my driveway before I can get out of my own driveway on Oak Knoll. Now, if a large vehicle is parked on Oak Knoll, then those traffic cars, you have to have a traffic control guard that has a stop sign to stop these cars, to let these cars go around, pass over the line onto the oncoming traffic, go around, then stop these cars to let these cars go by. And you have to do that all day long. And there has to be a traffic control person doing that. Now, getting to the project on Oak Knoll House, if the property itself allows for this large vehicle to be parked on their property, then there won't be a safety issue of congestion. If they can't, for whatever reason, because now the house has to come down, we need that space to get things in and out of, the next most safe position would be the back of the property, which would be on Cortland. Now, I know there's an issue with the people on Cortland that don't want a large vehicle parked on Cortland. I am not here for my selfish attitude. I'm here for the well-being of San Marino. I'm looking for safety. Now, if that large vehicle for some reason can't be parked on the property and is parked on Cortland, Cortland is twice as wide as Oak Knoll. Even if it's parked there, cars can go back and forth. And there are no cars that go back and forth because Cortland has Monterey Road here, and at this end has Oak Knoll. So there is no traffic going back and forth. It's a quiet street. So therefore, the safety of the workers, the crews that have to go to the vehicle and back onto the property and to the vehicle and back on the property would stand to reason that Cortland would be a perfect place for the car to park, assuming that they can't park on the property itself. Now, because it's city streets, it should be not written in the contract or decided upon the owner, but it should be the owner of the vehicle where the safest place to park for his car, for his crew, and for San Marino traffic. If he chooses to be on Cortland, then that should be allowed. I'm just saying that it's a safety issue to be on Oak Knoll for such a large vehicle. And if the person who's doing that has to provide the guard, the traffic guard for the traffic that goes by. So that's the three choices. Now, just to let you know.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. We
Okay.
would like to,
I have
keep
one
the meeting.
thing to show you, and this is a fourth choice. The Department of Water and Power had to work on the street in San Marino through the, what do you call it? The plate on the floor, the underground plate that comes up. Okay. Where did they park? They parked in the very center of the street.
I'm sorry, ma'am, you have to,
Oh.
yeah, thank you. We can pass, if you want us, we
They
can pass.
parked in the very center of the street. Here you go. The very center of the street, which with the side of the curb, which is for the runoff of the water, is included. So now the cars can pass this way and 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 this, and there is no traffic jam. Now, it would be a traffic security for the workers to go across the street to get to their truck to bring their merchandise back, and then they would have to stop the traffic. But as far as the flow of traffic on Oak Knoll, that's a choice. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Staff, if you could address the next participant from the public for comment.
I don't have any more public speaker cards, but I'm assuming some more people would like to speak. So anybody in favor or opposed to the project could speak now. No, it's okay. Go ahead and speak, please.
Good evening. McManigal. I live at 2118 Cortland, which is right next door to Lynn and Bill Updike. So I get part of the backyard.
Ma'am, can you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
That better? Okay. So the question in regards to the parking of both the vehicles, of construction work, and of those that are going to be bringing in product. With this new project that they have presented, most of the development is on that west side, meaning that on the Oak Knoll side. And because they have agreed to closing off that back side, that east side of the property, it will be most convenient for them to be able to have access to the property there on that west side. The idea of them parking, as she suggested, in the center and being able to move people around and to be able to have someone there who can direct the traffic is very viable. We're just concerned about both our street. We have been through a lot of construction, so we know what it is to have people in and out. So we really would appreciate you considering the alternative and a viable alternative of having the trucks being able to park in the front, as that is their easiest access to the property. Coming in from the back is a much further distance for them to be able to approach. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to come forward to speak for, against, or about the project? Anybody online that we know of, staff?
No, no one online.
Oh,
Hi, my name is Blair Hoyer. I live at 2160 South Oak Knoll, the house immediately south of the house in question. First, I just want to say I'm really excited about this project. Really excited to see a new house get built there, and really appreciative of how well Arthur has worked with the community throughout this whole process. Second, I just want to note that I think these are public streets. I don't think we should restrict, have special stipulations about where they can park or how they can access their property. I think they should abide by the law and safety requirements that the Public Works Director puts out. But other than that, I don't think the commission should restrict where they park on public roads. Thanks.
thank you very much. Any other members of the public?
Good evening. My name is Angelo Antosi, and I'm a resident of 2062 South Oak Knoll, and been there over 40 years. And as all of you, I'm sure, are well aware, the traffic on Oak Knoll has been an ongoing problem for many, many years. In fact, we even had problems with the buses. Now, if there was not a driveway or access from Cortland, I could see and maybe go along with Mr. Habib with the trucks in the middle or having a guard. But you have no idea what kind of a traffic jam. Already it's a traffic jam going up or down Oak Knoll. And I've had to wait, Mrs. Habib said she's counted 15 cars. I've had to wait for 20 cars to get out. And if God forbid there was an emergency, you're going to have the damn fire trucks going up and down the street and ambulances. It's going to be a complete nightmare. And unless you can have the guard, like she suggested, stopping traffic, letting traffic come through, I am totally against it, as I'm sure a lot of our other neighbors are. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to come and speak on this application? All right, seeing none, I think at this time we'll close. Yes. Okay, do we know the individual's name?
So the person online is actually the daughter, Maya. But if the public speaking portion has concluded, the applicant will have the ability to rebut.
Okay, if Maya is a representative of the applicant, then we'll ask for her to, or that individual to wait, and then see if there's any other members of the public, seeing that there is none at this moment. Is that correct? Okay, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing now and allow the applicant to go. It would still be partial. Okay, we will reopen the public comment portion, allow the applicant to speak to the comments they heard, and then we will close public comments at that time. Ms. Ho, please. If you could
Hi,
state.
thank you.
your
Hi,
address.
my name is Maya Ho. I'm the daughter of the applicants. Thank you all for the time tonight. And thank you to Arthur and Manny, who've done a great job spearheading this project. I just wanted to take a quick second to sort of make it clear that, you know, our home 2134 Oak Knoll is an interesting sort of location in the city, right? So it straddles two streets. In the back, you have Cortland, and in the front, you have Oak Knoll. And that's, you know, we always like kind of a fun puzzle and a new challenge. And so two sets of neighbors. Just wanted to make absolutely clear for the avoidance of doubt, you know, my parents are really excited to move into a new home and truly have taken on the mindset that they're willing to do whatever is beneficial for the community and whatever kind of pleases folks on both sides and all around. And so just for the absolute avoidance of doubt, we've worked extensively and it's been a real sort of high touch experience with the folks in the back of us. So all the Cortland neighbors, and a few of them you've heard speak tonight. We have not had the opportunity to vet the sort of legal grounds or, whatnot of anything that they've requested. We've truly just taken it in good faith and assumed that if they have a request, to put it simply, we are able to address, we are more than happy to do so, even if that means a small to large inconvenience to us. So that's really been sort of our goal. Before agreeing to those goals, candidly, we didn't have an opportunity to socialize them with other neighbors, again, in the spirit of hoping that whatever proposals were brought forth were in the best general interest of the neighborhood. And so we've agreed to the conditions as such, but we haven't had an opportunity to sort of vet whether or not they're legally valid, whether or not we could sort of even enforce them. And so in that respect, would defer some of those decisions to your best judgment, as well as then, of course, what the law kind of states or doesn't. But again, like we want to keep everyone happy. We understand construction is not always pleasant. And so we just really want to do whatever to make this as easy as possible for everybody around us. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hall. Is there any other members of the public online that have requested to speak? Okay, at this time, we'll close public comment and move on to planning commissioner discussions. Commissioner Brody.
Thank you very much. We have 3 design review matters before us. Our focus is design review. We cannot change the laws on streets and highways. We cannot commit the San Marino Police Department to treat a particular street a particular way. That's well beyond our jurisdiction, in my opinion. That said, I believe some of the options proposed with regard to traffic are going to be before the San Marino Police Department, and I'm sure they'll use their good judgment in making it a successful transition during the time of construction. As far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at design review, solely design review. And as far as that goes, I regard this project as a major improvement on a number of levels, and certainly could approve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Brody. Commissioner Dustin.
Thank you. I'd actually like to just first get a couple of clarification points from staff. I didn't have time to print out the whole packet. So if you could just clarify for me in the agenda report, the conditions that are listed as requested by the neighbors, are they worded exactly as the conditions that staff is proposing be included with any approval of this project, with the exception of 5 and 6?
So the ones 1 through 4, they're not exactly worded the same. I rephrased a couple of statements to make it clearer.
Okay. So specifically, I'm interested in number 4. Is that a condition that there will be no access available off of Cortland to the property?
Yes, that is a condition that overall that condition was brought up by the Cortland neighbors that the applicant has agreed to, and which is why it is added as condition of approval, because staff didn't find it to be an issue with the overall project. Okay. But the commission has the ability to remove that condition should they wish.
Thank you. So I'm going to now speak about the design review thoughts that I have about this project. I'd like to thank the applicant. This iteration that's been presented to us is just light years better than what was proposed the last time. It's just a fantastically better project. I do have a few little minor issues that are of concern to me. Again, I'm not a fan of poor proportions. An 8-foot entry door on a home that's a residential home is just not appropriate. We have many very grand, elegant, and magnificent mansions designed by some of the finest architects in California, if not the world. They don't need an 8-foot door to look and project magnificence. It's just a really underhanded way, I think, to try and attempt to do that. And it doesn't come off well because, again, it projects a lack of proportion, a lack of understanding of proportion. I have a problem still with the rear balcony on the south side of the property. I believe that that still does present a privacy incursion for the neighbors to the south. I have concerns about the driveway entrance. There's a 12-foot pad available between the gates and the sidewalk. I walk that part of town probably 4 or 5 days a week. It is not uncommon for cars to be parked waiting to get in as their gates are opening or closing. It's a pet peeve of mine as a access issue for people with disabilities, et cetera. The public sidewalk easement is there for everyone and it needs to be maintained. And if you can't park your car and wait for your gate to open without obstructing the sidewalk, then there's a design problem. And there are a lot of homes on that street that don't have sufficient clearance and they block the sidewalk. So I would be in favor of increasing that distance to something more like 15, 20 feet. A 12-foot distance is not adequate for most large cars nowadays. And then lastly, the materials, the Eldorado stone proposed for the rear wall is not an appropriate material for a Spanish colonial home. I know I will hear arguments that, well, the wall is going to be covered by hedging. You won't see it, et cetera. Again, if you've heard me before, I don't care whether you can see it or not. It has to be done right from the get-go because vegetation is not guaranteed, which is why that balcony is a privacy concern and why I think the wall needs to be made out of a more appropriate material. And then just to leapfrog onto some comments about the access and all that kind of stuff. I agree with Howard. That's really not our position. I know we do have to approve the conditions. So in that sense, yeah, we have to sort of make our minds up about it. We are told repeatedly when we review projects that when, people object, oh, my daughter's in her junior year in high school, the noise and the dust from construction is going to make it hard for her to study for her SATs. We cannot consider that as part of our deliberation. And this is pretty much exactly the same thing. Construction is obnoxious and irritating to the neighbors, period. It's not fair to push that on one street, Oak Knoll, or another, Cortland. It seems to me the appropriate thing to do is to let the city staff manage the construction project to enhance the expediency of the project so that it is done as quickly as possible so that everyone can get back to their peaceful enjoyment of their property. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Justin. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. Well, I just echo the comments that much, much better. Also, in all the time I've been here, I can only think of a couple other times where the neighborhood was so involved, and I'm very impressed by that. I wish we had that in every single project. Even though sometimes it raises difficult issues for us, it's always better. And so thank you so much, community, for coming out. It's we know everybody's busy and also working with the applicant and vice versa. Very, very impressive. You have no idea. So as to the actual project, I concur. It's just so much better. I'm, again, so impressed that the applicant did this, making it a little smaller, removing the bedroom and bathroom, lot coverage a lot lower. All these things are, in my mind, really much better. The design seems to go along much better with the street. And I just, all in all, I just think it's a much better project. I concur with Commissioner Dustin on the balcony. That was one issue that I had. I'm always with him on the 8-foot door because I always feel that way too. Also the driveway, it's so funny because your pet peeve is about the cars blocking My pet peeve is the vegetation blocking, because when I walk and I can't get past I'm on the sidewalk, but the vegetation gets me. So I could support that as well. I hate anything that blocks the sidewalk. Do have one, I might recommend that we make a more specific condition regarding the stucco, just make sure that that's covered.
I agree.
And also when I saw the pilasters, I thought that they're a little tall, a little bit do you think, I wasn't sure they were within the correct, how do you say that, proportion. So something that I just would love to hear my fellow commissioners talk about that. That was one thing that just kind of got my attention. And then just to comment on what everybody's talking about, conditions 5 and 6. Obviously, everyone hasn't agreed because the Oak Knoll residents do not agree with that condition. And I, of course, concur that we can't enforce that condition related to the public street. So without a traffic study, without looking at the safety issues, I would feel very, very uncomfortable. And I'm a little unclear why the condition recommended by staff that the Public Works Director shall determine and approve any restrictions regarding the location of construction vehicles and equipment and the offloading materials, why that wouldn't help you. It makes me think our city might not agree with you. So that tells me something too, that I think our Public Works Director should be the one with consultation to the police department to look at that issue and decide it. I think that's a much more appropriate way to do it in light of safety issues. So I would support that condition E for sure. So that's those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Okazaki.
You know, not long ago, I was Assistant General Manager at the City of LA Department of Transportation. And I worked on for about 25 years, all the rail projects that dealt with minimizing impacts during construction, and the issues of construction equipment and noise and dust and all that were major issues of the community and for Metro in building the projects, and it still goes on. And so building housing is a smaller scale, the same issue. The neighbors' concerns should be addressed. And the issues of safety is part of that as well. Typically, for smaller projects, not like Metro projects, for smaller residential type projects, the contractors are required to use what's called a work area traffic control handbook. It's called the Watch Manual that tells utility companies that work temporarily, or for a general contractor who worked for a longer time, maybe a year. But there are mitigations for allowing for construction equipment to be parked on the street and or employees. Although the first choice of Metro and our projects that we approved in the city of LA were to allow for the construction equipment to always be parked, if possible, on the private property. And we have a large enough property here, I think, to park and conduct the activities on the private property. That should be the first priority, and hopefully the Public Works Director will recommend that. We're not, as we heard, not recommending, we cannot, as a Planning Commission, require such a thing. But, you know, just simply putting up a traffic cone to move the center line of the street from where it is today, which is 15 feet in the middle of a 30-foot street. Move it 3 feet, 4 feet, whenever there's a truck parked there, or it's going to be a truck parked on the east side of the street going northbound. Move that it's not a double yellow line there, it's just a broken yellow line. And people could actually, you know, go around it, but to make it safer, the contractor could deploy his employees to use traffic cones. So those safety concerns are always addressed in construction, and that is something that our Public Works Director can adequately handle, him and his staff, using the Watch Manual that almost every contractor, utility companies use. Okay, so I'm not worried about that. And I'm also not worried about Planning Commission, if approved by the staff and and this is something that the community wants, and this is something that the owner and the architect could agree to, not using Cortland. If that is something that we could agree to, I think planning commissioners should consider that as something that everybody agrees to, and make that part of the condition that guarantees the issue of traffic problems on Cortland. And I realize that you said that streets are for everybody to use, but it is not unreasonable for government agencies to regulate the use of it during construction period for the general safety and concerns of a community. And we do that on Metro Rail projects. We do that on major development projects in the city of LA. And I think we could get the cooperation of the Public Works Director to keep that in mind as he sets his condition. So I think that's that for the issues that were addressed by the homeless. But I wanted to point out, I was very pleased to see this project improve so much, such that every single neighbor of the applicant approved this new project. That's what I saw, that I think there was 12 approved and there was no opposition to this project. And that's a good thing. And that's partly because Cortland folks were told that there will be no access of construction equipment and vehicles on Cortland. If that's what it takes and that's what's agreeable to everybody, I think that could be part of the project approval that this commission approves. I'm generally very, very pleased with the project in terms of the building, the sizing, the masking, and all the design elements. Just wonderful for this street. And I know that we're doing that almost on a house by house basis on Oak Knoll, and Oak Knoll is looking very, very nice. But I do also want to, as a traffic engineer, want to address the issue that you heard from a couple of the commissioners, have the setback for the gates, the vehicle gates further in instead of 12 feet, 15 to 20 feet. I think that's a very good idea. I like to see that for every street that we have, such as this, which is a thoroughfare, and we don't want to block the vehicles on the street by having the gate so close to the sidewalk and streets. So if the architect and the owner could move the gate slightly more easterly into their property, that would be more satisfactory to my point of view. And those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Okazaki. Yes, I do feel like it was an overall improvement on the proposal. I think it's much more compatible with the neighborhood, and the effort made to involve the neighborhood is evident here this evening. I am supportive of some of the comments that have been made regarding moving the driveway gate further east in order to allow for a car to approach the driveway and be beyond the sidewalk and clear that so that the pedestrians can still move by. I think it's also will increase the safety of the traffic that goes through Oak Knoll. As far as the other comments with regards to the door, I don't have necessarily any objections to what's being proposed. However, if there's any motion for a reduced size door, I think that's not necessarily material. And I also think the pilaster heights are with scale of the overall property at 4 feet for the pedestrian gate or the gate off the street, as well as the 5 feet for the vehicle gate. Otherwise, overall, I think it's a good project. I'm supportive of it, and I could support a approval of the project. Given that, do we have a motion?
And
yes.
What about the balcony?
With regards to the balcony, we actually heard from the neighbor to the south. There was no comments. I heard distinctly about privacy from that neighbor. I understand we may be protecting for future neighbors that may live in that house, but given the size and scale of the home in relation to the property to the south as well. Specifically, I think, the fear is more from that home over to this house than vice versa. So I don't personally have a objection to the balcony.
Yeah, I just have a comment on the 8-foot door. I didn't have a problem with that because we're seeing a lot of folks today, especially the younger generation, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", not including basketball players who are 7'2", 7'3", 7'4". To reduce an 8-foot door kind of takes away from the elegance and the majesty of the place, as well as performing a real disservice to people who have height disabilities.
Okay. Noted. With all those comments and conditions, do we have a motion? Or would anyone like to proffer a motion?
I'd like to offer the motion to approve this project, but could I borrow that? Thank you. I didn't print out. There's 484 pages of documents that we get electronically. We used to get them hard copies, but they're electronic. So if I start to print, it's just too many. I should have just printed a agenda. But anyway, I move that we approve the design review case number DR 23-50, DR 23-90, and DR 23-91 to construct a new 2-story home with an attached 3-car garage, and the removal of 3 heritage trees at 2134 South Oaknell Avenue, with a condition that the driveway gate be set back to 20 feet from the inside of the property line.
And to approve it with the added conditions recommended by staff?
Absolutely. Sorry.
No, I think you probably included that. I just wanted to make it clear. And I would like to, if I could add, sorry?
Director, did you have a comment?
Sorry for the interruption. It would probably be best to reopen the public hearing and re-engage with the applicant to see if they're amenable with the
In the gate?
correct.
Can we get the architect and the?
Before we do that, Chair, it's up to you, but that's staff's recommendation.
Okay, so before we entertain the motion from Commissioner Okazaki, I will reopen the public comment. So
I would just like to make clear that as the motion is put forward, there's no further amendments before we open the public hearing, because if there are, then it makes sense to have them all on the table.
I believe Commissioner Wright was going to suggest.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, I think we agreed that we were just going to make it clear that we would also add approve the project with the added conditions recommended by staff. Also, I would like to add a condition related to the stucco to make it clear that it is, how would we say that, Commissioner Justin?
I'm going to digress even further, but I'm sorry, Kevin, can I just buzz? So this is another pet peeve of mine. This is not a materials board. It's what suffices the materials board nowadays, but we used to get a board that had the actual material attached to the board, which is why it was called a materials board. Stucco finish in particular is an extremely dicey issue. There's all these terms that float about and nobody means the same thing when they use the same terms. So to answer your question, I don't know how to specify it verbally.
Well,
that's clear, but I
right,
know what it is when I see it and I rub my fingers over it.
You wanted to make sure it's not smooth.
Correct.
Yeah. So we just want to be sure the stucco is not smooth. Yeah. And I think we used to call it something not opaque. There's a word we've used before about stucco that's not smooth. What is rough? Maybe it's rough.
Rough
Thank you. That helps.
Well,
no?
Now you got to get careful there, because a rough knockdown stucco is also an abhorrent thing. The stucco on the wall here, again, I look at it and I can rub my hand on it, and that's what I would be okay with. Super smooth and super rough, no. So how do you quantify that with words? I don't know.
Medium rough.
Not smooth, not smooth, medium rough. Well, it's going to be up to planning to enforce it. So I would defer to you to any type or not, or leave it the way it is. But I do want to, because I agree with Commissioner Dustin to try to respond to that. But if we're satisfied with what the architect just said, then we could leave it.
Okay,
You okay with that?
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would like to clarify, the staff report only included conditions 1 through 4 as it relates to Cortland.
And then added
If
the
I-
fifth condition.
I would like to add conditions 5 and 6 recently submitted by the neighbors. Would that be an issue with staff?
That would fly against exactly what we're saying, that the
Yeah.
community director in our purview is outside. that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right, so I believe,
Yeah, okay, all right.
Commissioner Okazaki now has all my paperwork.
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know how that happened.
So so if we can, Commissioner Okazaki, would you like to state the motion once more for clarity or?
Is there any, so there, I hear Commissioner Brody does not support the reduction in height on the entry door. I just wanted to feel out the rest of the commission on that topic and the material for the wall in the rear of the property.
I support the 8-foot ceiling for the door.
The door,
I
right?
like wide doors as much as possible, especially for this kind of building. But material, whatever you want, how
That's whatever the applicant
Yeah.
wants.
No, he's speaking to the Cortland wall material, which Commissioner Dustin had an issue with, is not being compatible with the architectural style, regardless of whether it's covered by vegetation or not. But again, that leaves the question to Commissioner Dustin: do you have a material you think is appropriate or should be entertained?
A stucco coated CMU wall is what would be appropriate, painted the same color as the house.
That's a good way of putting it.
Okay, so we would add that as the condition.
I'm okay with accepting that condition
Okay,
and make it clear that we're not adding condition 5 and 6, but we're giving the Director of Public Works the ultimate authority on how to handle the construction equipment and parking issue.
So just as a reminder,
The fire.
the Cortland neighbors requested the stone material. Now, it's still under the purview of the Planning Commission to require that the wall be under the conditions that were just mentioned by Commissioner Dustin. But staff just wanted to remind you that the Cortland neighbors were the ones that requested that material.
I would leave it to this commission to make the call of whether we will we will agree with the recommendation of which the applicant worked with neighbors to come to an agreement on a material, or the condition of CMU wall finished in stucco and colored to match the home.
With all due respect, I think we go with the CMU.
I agree.
Okay,
I mean, this is what we're here to do. And all of us on this commission have a lot of experience with this stuff. And we see the results of people making mistakes, and they wish they can go back and redo it. And we know what we're doing. And I think it's the appropriate way to.
okay. Noted. So that would be part of that would be part of the motion that's on the floor right now. Now I will, is there any other conditions of approval that?
No.
That's the motion on the floor. At this time, I will open public comment again so that the applicant can address the request
You need
for.
a second before you go to the.
No, not
no,
this time.
Okay.
So can the applicant come forward? I believe the architect is present and the homeowner representative is also online. With what was heard regarding specifically the gate entryway being pushed back, I believe there was a condition up to 20 feet. Is that going to be amenable to the homeowners?
Yeah, we have no problem with that.
Okay,
Great.
all right. Thank you very much. We will close the public comment portion now again and resume the motion. There is a motion on the floor with the condition stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so the motion from Commissioner Okazaki with the second from Commissioner Brody.
And-
Would you like some clarification, staff?
Because there's a lot of back and forth. I understand about, are you requesting that the applicant make the new driveway gate up, at 20 feet or?
Yes.
Okay, so that's certain 20 feet. We're not touching or providing a specific condition about the type of stucco on the home. That's gonna be per plan, per the architect, right?
I believe the condition was that it would be medium
Yep.
rough. And if there actually has to be a physical sample, it would be what's existing in this room
Okay.
at
And
City Hall.
and then you're adopting all the conditions staff is recommending,
1 through 4.
1 through 4, and
Yes.
then the final condition of approval being that the rear wall not be stone veneer, but to be a CMU stucco to match the main residence and the front wall.
To be CMU finished in stucco painted to match the home.
Yes.
Correct.
And then small tidbit, but the front wall has a stone cap. Do you also want the rear wall to have a stone cap?
Yes.
How about that?
Okay,
If it's gonna if it matches uniform to
should-
what's being installed in the
be-
front, it
front,
should be
yeah.
uniform.
okay. And so the rear wall should be in uniform with the front wall.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, with all those conditions of approval, if we're in agreement, I can take roll call.
Do we have a motion? Yes. So we have the motion, the roll call, please.
Yes.
Sorry, sir, the public hearing
Public
is
hearing, yeah,
closed.
public
but,
comment is closed.
For clarification, staff will read the condition, but yes, it would be the Public Works Director.
So yeah, condition E, as the planning commission is willing to uphold, which is that the public works director shall determine and approve any restrictions regarding the location of construction vehicles and equipment and the offloading of materials.
We could add language to include the consultation with both the police chief and the fire chief.
All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. Can we have roll call, please?
And who seconded? I'm sorry.
It was Commissioner Brody with the second
Okay,
and Commissioner Okazaki with the motion.
yes. All right. Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Destin,
Yes.
Commissioner Okazaki,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair Chang.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with the conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to our first agenda on the agenda item on the hearing. That's going to be we'll give a minute for folks that are not for the remainder of the hearing to exit, and then we'll resume. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very much.
I mean,
Camera there. Say he have something, the internet, he cannot get in. When he can, he only say you only on number 3.
yeah, because they changed the agenda. They move things around.
You called that one right.
I know, no. Do you want to take like maybe a 2-3 minute?
Yeah, let's take a 3-minute break and then we'll resume in 3 minutes.
They let her go.
I actually have a question specifically for another on this next item.
On Wilson.
I am however not familiar with this.
Uh-oh.
Laura,
Has it in print?
there's a pine tree that's being removed.
Oh, this is Wilson. We're talking about Wilson.
Wilson,
Oh,
what you want?
I'm
Have you
still
seen the
back
plan?
on
Or-
Oak
have you seen the
Oh,
plan?
yeah.
There's a
Oh.
pine tree, well, she's not.
All right, you wait, okay. I have,
Laura,
but there's not
There's
a
a
whole
pine
lot.
tree that's being
Yeah.
removed. By removed, is it being put to use somewhere else? Because it seems to be a healthy tree.
Wait, this is on Wilson?
It's on Oak Knoll.
Oh, he's still talking about Oak Knoll. No, there's not.
There's a healthy pine on Oak Knoll. It looks nice.
2134? A specific project or in general?
Oh.
There is a
It's on
pine.
Oak
There
Knoll.
was a pine, but I didn't think it was on.
2134.
Yeah. So what's happening? What happens with that? It's a healthy tree. It looks good.
I have to look at the report again.
Okay, it's number
Oh, it's a-
22, the
it's a
fern pine.
polycarp.
The fern pine,
What number is it?
number 22.
Oh, one of the ones that is being, yeah, that's being,
Yeah, Photocarpus graculor. So what's happening with that?
I'm grabbing, see, he took. he took my-
On that property, I'm like, okay.
I know, there's a million trees.
Sycamore, the Proletariat on the back, magnolia.
As my grandmother would say, was is los?
No, it's scheduled for removal.
I know, but it's
He took mine. I'll give
healthy,
you
it
his.
looks good. So what happens to the thing?
I mean, unless the tree is very young, it's not a candidate for relocation.
Okay.
For example, on that one, the Public Works Department asked me to look at the tree in the parkway, thinking about relocating the driveway. And I looked at it and I said, it's young enough to move, but then it turned out that it was not gonna be an issue at all. Right, you said again, 22 or 23?
22.
Okay.
The pine.
Well, it's 14 looking at on Wilson. No, we got 20.
34 Oak Knoll? Oh, that's
Oak
looking at
Knoll,
34
page
Oak Knoll.
1 of Oak Knoll.
Yeah, we don't have.
Yeah, because we're done. Yes.
All right, we are going to call the hearing back to order and review our agenda item number 1. That's the consideration of appeal for design review case number 21-25 and 21-73 of approval at 1408 Wilson Avenue for a first and second story, 418 square foot addition. Staff report, please.
We close the gate, the door.
For item number 1 or the reorganized item number 1, this is Camelia Martinez, Associate Planner. This is for the consideration of appeal for design review case 21-25 and 21-73 for approval at 1408 Wilson for a first and second story addition. The project involves the construction of a 287 square foot 1-story addition and 131 square foot 2nd-story addition to an existing 2,522 square foot 2-story single-family residence. The project is located on a 13,657 square foot interior lot in the R1 zone in Area District 7. This project requires 2 design review actions. Previously, this project was heard at the January 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, and then it was continued to address some concerns and is now being brought back before you. The Planning Commission at the time requested the following changes: that the project was not in a Cape Cod style on the front facade, and that the Cape Cod style needed to be more simplistic and not feature a double gable roof, as the current roof plan is too chaotic. The applicant has reduced the double gable to a single gable as part of this new proposal. A second comment of concern with the large shed dormers that are found on Cape Cod styles, and that the proposed dormers should be broken up into 3 smaller dormers. And you would typically not see 3 separate shed dormers with the window frame being the same exact size of the dormer shed. The applicant has proposed to decided to keep the single dormer to the front facade, but they have separated the windows to be more evenly spaced and added wood shingles to the sides of it. A third comment were that other windows and odd shaped little horizontal windows you would not see in a Cape Cod style. The applicant has decided to keep the horizontal windows on the side elevation next to the chimney because they wanted to keep some interior design element that they had proposed. But they did remove the shutters to the side of that same elevation to provide a more simplistic appearance. Fourth comment was that the exterior light fixtures were unsuitable for Cape Cod and unshielded and creating a nuisance for neighbors. The applicant has decided to remove the light fixtures from the plans altogether. The fifth comment, there was an inconsistency where the arborist report stated no turf should be under the oak tree and the landscape plan showed that. The applicant has since corrected the landscape plan to show that there was going to be bark under the oak tree now and has updated the landscape plan. Another comment was the side facing elevations had no articulation, had too much solid massing. The applicant has decided to add wood shingle facade throughout the home and believes that adding the 11-foot addition to the rear wouldn't, as a single story addition to the rear wouldn't create a massing problem. Another comment from the commissioner, the wood shingle siding should be throughout the home, and the applicant has provided the wood shingle facade throughout the home as this part of this new proposal. And the last comment were that story poles should be placed as part of this project and that the rear yard should be accessed for the planning commissioners to look and view. What I didn't know previously at the January Planning Commission meeting that the applicant actually did install story poles as part of the design review submittal with the first time back in 2021, but obviously has since removed them. The applicant happened to have photos of the story poles, which we then provided as an attachment to the staff report. And therefore, the applicant is not wishing to install new story poles on top of that. That summarizes my comments from the previous meeting and the changes that the applicant has made. I'm available to answer any questions, and the applicant is also available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, staff. Are there any commissioners that have questions for staff?
I just have a clarification. So staff is recommending approval of this project.
Yes, we are. Similar to the DRC, we're recommending approval.
Right, and to approve the findings in your report.
Yes.
Any other questions from commissioners to staff? Seeing none. Okay, is the applicant present? If you could please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Stephen Gui. I own the property at 1408 Wilson Avenue. I live at 40 Mill Canyon Road in San Marino. I think Camila has summarized it very well. This plan was already approved by DRC and then was again appealed and was presented again in January. And there was a few points that was asked of me to change. The big one was the double gable. And it was, we changed it to a single gable. And so it'd be more consistent with the Cape Cod style. And there was we also explored the possibility of 3 smaller dormers while we were working with DRC, but that was too busy, and it was just too it was just impossible to do the inside to match the 3 single dormers. So I kept the three separate dormers. So I kept the 1 single dormer, but I did divide the windows into 3 separate windows that are evenly spaced instead of 1 large picture window. And we got rid of the back little windows that was mentioned in the rear. There was some horizontal little windows on the 2nd story that was kind of weird looking. And I agreed with that. So we changed that out and we just put simpler windows that was kind of consistent in the rear. Let me see. We removed the porch light and we put basically a light that's inside the entry on the ceiling. Recess, yes. And then let's see. The massing on the side, we actually increased the window size to decrease the massing on the side of the addition. And so it decreases the solid area. And also, I think by adding the shingles in that area also makes it a little bit more not as large looking. And we put the wood shingles around the whole house. And yeah, do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open it up to public comment. Is there any members of the public who'd like to speak about, for, or against the project? Seeing none present, is there anyone online that is here to speak?
There has not been anyone online, and I forgot to mention, Chair, as part of my presentation, a little comment about the neighbors. Although this project was appealed by the neighbors, staff has not heard any response from them as part of this public noting process with these updated plans, as the public notice has been sent out, and I don't see any of the appellees here in the meeting.
Plural. Do we have at least some clarity as to who the neighbors are who were?
Yes, several of them appealed it together to share the appeal cost. I have the list of neighbors as part of the attachment who appealed.
Was that provided in our supplemental materials?
It wasn't part of the supplemental materials, it was actually part of the actual staff report.
Okay.
Number 5 of the attachment to the staff report, the appeal documentation.
Yes.
So those neighbors that appealed were 1406, 1404, 1410 Wilson. Those 3 addresses.
Did they indicate a basis for appeal?
Yes, they did. To summarize, and you can read their full appeal
I
process.
just wanted on the record that.
Yeah, they were concerned about the oak tree and how the construction would affect that. They were concerned about construction as a whole. And they were concerned about originally the project expanded the 2-car garage to a 3-car garage, which is no longer the case, and they didn't want a 3-car garage because of increased of traffic. And they were just citing that there's a flaw in the city process in regards to the public hearing and items like that. So that's just a summary of what they commented.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that information. Is there anyone present now online that would like to speak or no?
There's not.
Okay. We'll give one last opportunity for anyone from the community, including those who appealed, to speak. If not at this time, I will close the public comments. Seeing none, we'll close public comments and move on to commissioner discussions. Commissioner Okazaki.
I drive Wilson quite a bit, several times a day when I head south. That's my route. And I see the houses on this street that are very nice. And I always thought that this particular building with a huge roof was, I mean, they were hiding something there, you know? So I like the dormer. I think the single dormer does look better. And so I appreciate the changes you made. And anyway, I'm generally in support of the staff recommendation to approve this project as stated in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dustin.
I apologize. I actually did have a question for staff and I neglected at the proper time to ask it. So I'm going to ask it now. This is for the city forester. So I take it you haven't had a chance to visit the property, but do you have plans that you can maybe look at least, I hope, or you can borrow mine?
Apparently I did review this with the planners, but that was back in January when
Oh,
it was
okay.
initially, so off the top of my
Well,
head, I don't remember.
I just have one major concern with this project proposal. And I don't know if you recall the oak tree that's in the backyard of this property. It is just magnificent. I mean, the trunk at breast height must be 5 feet in diameter. It's just, and the canopy is just enormous. So if you look at the plans, there is a lot of turf in the drip line of that tree. And I'm just concerned, this is a tree that has been thriving in a yard that has no formal landscaping in it. And I'm just concerned that over time, this proposed landscape plan is going to degrade the health of that tree. And I just would like you to share your thoughts on the potential impact to the tree from what's being proposed.
Indeed, turf is not good to have directly under a tree. I think that I could do a site visit and look at the plans and we could come up with a specific
So
metric,
What the
a
planning
number.
commission can do, even though the tree's not tied to the development, the landscaping is, so there could be a condition in which the final landscaping plan has to come into staff for review for the approval of the urban forester to ensure that the conditions will.
The health and safety of the oak tree is maintained.
Perfect.
Excellent thought, excellent
That will
thought.
address my concerns. Thank you.
All right. Any other so Commissioner Dustin?
So about the house. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I was like, what do you?
You got your conditions, so you're ready?
So the house, it just is not a Cape Cod, but I have some sympathy for the applicant. He's working with a he's working with a house that should never have been approved to begin with. So he's trying to turn it into something better. It is better. It's just not a Cape Cod, but it's probably as good as it's going to get. So, yeah, I was really more worried about the tree. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Dustin. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, but that was helpful because I think most of the comments related to the Cape Cod were yours and understandably so.
Yes.
So I wanted to know how you felt about this new plan, and I have a lot of sympathy for the applicant as well. He's really been. I kept looking at DR another report, and now it's come to us multiple times, and so I do feel that sympathy, and I do think that's exactly why Commissioner Dustin is, because it's a difficult house / property. But in light of all of that, I think I could, and in light of staff's recommendation, I think I could support it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Dustin took the wind out of my sails. This is something that initially probably wouldn't have gotten by DRC, but there it is. And they're not making it worse. And DRC approved it. So I think I can go along with that.
Thank you. I'm under the impression that this home is actually better than what exists there, and it's actually going to add to the overall neighborhood. So I think it's going to be more compatible with the neighborhood, more compatible with itself, even though it's not a good example, a traditional Cape Cod. And I think it will actually enhance the overall streetscape of that community and neighborhood. So I am in support of the approval of the project. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve DRC 21-25 and DR 21-73 at 1408 Wilson Avenue with the standard conditions put forward by city staff and the additional condition that the landscape plan is not approved finally tonight, but the applicant will consult with city staff as to what would be an appropriate landscape plan to maintain the health of the oak trees in the back of the property.
All right, we have the motion from Commissioner Dustin. Do we have a second?
Before you, I'd like to get a clarification. You know, this is, like I said, I hang out on Wilson, not just drive, but I also walk. But I can't walk on the south side of Wilson because there's no sidewalk in front of this project. And I was just wondering, when do we get the opportunity to get sidewalk in some of these areas in our communities?
Unfortunately, that's not part of the planning commission's purview. That could be something that can be raised at the Public Safety Commission level to initiate the process for review. And I believe public safety. So I can forward that concern to the Public Works Department, but it's not under the purview of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Director. So do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Wright with the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Dustin,
Yes.
Commissioner Okazaki, Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair Chang.
Yes, excuse me, Mike wasn't on, so I
Oh, okay. And Chair Chang.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0 for approval.
Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the second agendized item on the public hearing. That is going to be the consideration of approval for design review case number DR 21-23 at 465 Buena Vista Street. That's to construct a new one-story home and the removal of one heritage tree. Staff report, please.
For item number 2 that got reshuffled, the applicant, this is Camelia Martinez, the associate planner. The applicant proposes to demolish an existing single-family residence to construct a new 2,040 square foot one-story residence, with a detached and existing 483 square foot 2-car garage and the removal of one heritage tree. The project is located at 465 Buena Vista Street on an 8,434 square foot lot in the R1 zone within Area District 7. The proposal requires 2 design review actions pursuant to San Marino Municipal Code. The first one being DR 21-23 for a new or replacement residential structure, and the second one being DR 23-92 for impervious coverage exceeding 25% in the front yard. Staff would like to note for the record that the staff report mentions 2 design review actions, the 2 case numbers of DR 21-23 and DR 23-92. And the public hearing notice was sent out to the legal neighborhood with those 2 design review numbers. And the public hearing notice posted on site, on the property, on the board was noticed with those 2 numbers. But if you look at the top of your staff report, it lists 1 number. So a second design review number is mentioned throughout the staff report, but not in the title of the staff report. We would like to note that correction. Moving on, for the tree removal, the project proposes the removal of one heritage tree, tree number 4, which is a fern pine. The city's urban forester is recommending approval for the removal of that tree in accordance with the tree replacements as shown on the landscape plan. This subject property is not identified on the citywide historic resource survey report, and a historic assessment report was prepared by the environmental consultant Safos Environmental Inc. And the report concluded that the property does not appear to be eligible for listing on the National Register, the California Register, or the designation of a historic landmark. As part of the neighborhood input letters, this project received 2 for approval and 5 for no response. These all were sent with certified mailings, which were provided as part of the attachments. The applicant is proposing this new 2,040 square foot 1-story residence with the 483 square foot 2-car garage. The first floor is proposing a total of 2,040 square feet of livable area, and the garage is actually being reduced from a 3-car garage to a 2-car garage, and they're keeping majority of that same structure. They're just reducing the walls. Throughout the home, the applicant intends to install double hung and awning Geldwin sightline windows. The applicant intends to install a simulated wood shake by Boral Cedar Light in the silverwood color on the roof. Both materials are approved through the pre-approved materials list that the city has. The applicant is proposing to install a new driveway and a new walkway in the current location, and the applicant is proposing to increase the driveway width but is shortening the walkway linear footage by connecting it from the driveway. And the applicant is proposing a new impervious coverage in the front yard to be 30% instead of, which is why it needs your approval because it's over the 25% threshold. This project is exempt from CEQA under Article 19, Section 150301, Class 3. Staff is able to make the required following findings: that the proposed structure is compatible with the neighborhood, that the proposed structure is designed and will be developed in a manner which balances the reasonable expectation of privacy and persons residing on contiguous properties with the reasonable expectation of the applicants to develop their property within the restrictions of this code. 3, that in a case of a building addition, the proposal is compatible with the existing building, which includes the roof lines. And 4, that the colors and materials are consistent and match the existing building or structure. If the commission, after the public hearing, feels that there is evidence to support each finding, they should approve the project. Conversely, if the commission feels that they cannot make one or more of the required findings based upon the information presented, they should suggest a condition of approval to address the relevant concern. If one cannot be crafted to address the concern, they should then deny the project. Staff finds that the proposed project meets all the required findings and recommends that the planning commission approve the project. I am available to answer any questions, and our city's urban forester is also available to answer any questions about that one tree removal.
Thank you very much, staff. Commission, is there any questions for staff? Commissioner Dustin?
So I know we made some changes in the notification process where neighbors in the legal neighborhood would be notified through mail service. Can you tell me specifically what postage service is specified in that process? The reason I'm asking is because I believe we said certified mail, and I've come to understand now, after looking at this project and questions that were raised, there's lots of different types of things that can be called certified, and I'm just curious, do we specify or do we just say certified mail?
We just say certified mail.
Okay, all right. That's all I had.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant present?
Yes, he's actually online. 1 second. Sabag, if you could make Cayman Lai the presenter, please. Cayman, you will have the ability to unmute yourself in a moment. Cayman, you now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Cayman Lai. I'm the project designer. I'm sorry I cannot attend the meeting by myself or in person because I just discharged from hospital on the last Sunday night. I had tumor surgery removal on the Monday prior to that. But then we really want to get this project going. That's why I like to request for a Zoom presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay. First of all, I like to answer Commissioner Dustin's question. All the certified mails were sent out by U.S. Postal Service, and we also have all the certified mail. Receipt emailed to the city. So the city should have all the receipt stuff when we send out a certified mail. And for this project, is on Buena Vista. On this street, most of the houses are two-story houses, and only the subject property and the right next door 455 are single-story houses. So when we started this project, it was started as a two-story house. But then after we send out notices and consult with discuss with some neighbors, the owner, their they're willing to change the design to a single-story house, and which would also reduce the sizes of the house. The original two-story house was like 2,600, almost like to 2,700 square feet. Now we reduced to single-story house, which is 2,040 square feet, with a detached two-car garage, 4-bedroom, 3.5 baths. And the original house, okay, if you look at the staff report, there's a table there. The existing house is 16 feet, but there's missing some figures. It's 16 feet from existing finished, if this is from existing finished grade, it is 20 feet, 0.81 feet. From the 16 feet is from the top of ridge to the existing finished floor. For the new house, is 19 feet, 2 inches from the finished grade. So we are a little shorter, okay, than the original house. And these are the things that we try to do to accommodate the neighbors for their view, for their air, for their sight. Since we're doing a wider driveway, we also increased the setback to the west side. The original driveway width was 9 feet, now it's 10 foot 4 inches. On the east side, the original setback was 3 feet 10 inches to the smallest wall corner. Now it's 5 feet 6 inches. So we are reducing this size, the height and the width, and increasing more space between the two neighbors. And also the neighbors, the east neighbor's driveway is on their west side, which is abutting our property. And also the driveway on the west neighbor is also on the west side, is also abutting our neighbor, our property. So we have a good distance between the two neighbors adjacent to us. And after sending out the revised plans and the notices, we received 2 approval. One was not approved before, now that they changed their mind to approve it. And the rest of the other neighbors pretty much like in the past, okay, no opinion. And for the removed heritage tree, okay, we are replacing it with 2 trees, okay, per the
comments, we've limited to about 5 minutes, so if you could just finish your comments, we appreciate it.
Well, okay, we feel that, okay, this house is compatible to this neighborhood. It's a small, functional, cozy house, 2,000 square feet, 1 single story, which is sitting at the similar setback to the front yard. So we'll ask the commissioner to review and approve this project. And I'm more than happy to answer other questions you have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lai. Is there any questions for the applicant from commissioners? Commissioner Wright?
Yes, I have a question about the rear yard and your landscaping. And looking at it, just wondering how much of it is green space, if you will, like.
We're pretty much keeping the, I'm sorry, okay, let me switch to another screen. We are adding more green space to this rear yard, okay. Beyond the existing retaining wall, we're not changing those landscaping because it's on a stepped retaining wall at different levels. The original garage is a 3-car garage, so it has a single door and a double door. And the original paving is same width as the garage. Now we reduce the garage width to accommodate the house size. So we're increasing more landscaping area by cutting the existing concrete area. And also we're increasing some landscaping area abutting the west wall. Because right now our backup space is only 27 feet 6 inches. So we are increasing some, landscaping area for area that uphill from the step, from the retaining wall, we're not changing those areas.
Okay, and you have the pool and the spa, correct, and all that concrete?
That is an existing spa, yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Okazaki?
Am I correct in assuming that even though you're increasing the driveway to 10 feet, 4 inches, I believe, toward the back of the house, the front part is already existing 11 feet so that you do not have to increase the driveway at the curb? Or are you going to be making any adjustments? Widening curb, the driveway at the curb, the W.
The driveway, after we increase it, it will be 11 feet. Okay, if you see, there is an existing retaining wall to be removed in dashed line, and the new retaining wall will shift to align with the new house wall.
All right, okay, wasn't clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners to the applicant? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. We will now open up to public comment. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak for, about, or against this project? Yes, please, if you could come up and state your name and address.
I'm Andrea Willard, and I live at 475 Buena Vista, which is right next door on the east side of the street. And Buena Vista is a very narrow, small street. There are about 6 houses on Buena Vista, and all of us are very concerned about the noise and, of course, all of the trucks that will come. And because the driveways on our street are very narrow, a lot of us park on the street right outside of our homes. And so we would love it if there be some kind of, rule saying, the trucks can't park outside of our property. And obviously it's public, but still, I don't know how long this project is supposed to take, but if it takes a year, oh my goodness, that will be horrible for all of us. I'm also concerned because it is a rental house, and the person who lives in the house, or the person who owns the house, we've never met. And so he hasn't really been one of the neighbors. So of course I was very envious when in the first house you all reviewed, you talked about how there was so much, collaboration by the owner and the architect and the neighbors. And here it's just been one revolving renter after another. And we've had to call the city numerous times because the state of the property right now is horrible. And there's been no interest in the property management company or in the owner for doing anything. So I just didn't want that to set the tone for a bad construction experience. So I just don't know what to make of this whole thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any other community members? Yes, if you could please come forward and state your name and address.
The owners present, can I talk?
Yes, can you state your name and your
My name is Winnie Tan.
and your address?
I living on 585 in George Los Marino. Then also I'm the constructor going to take this property. And also Mr. Wang, the property is buy for his son. Then his son's whole family, like 2 kids, and also the couple will be living on the house up till we finish the construction. Because current house only 3 rooms, they have 4 people. It's not enough the 2 kids separate together. That's why they want to have the good condition to for the son's family, and also they're going to live in here. Right now, why they rental? Because they still have some business in China. They try to finish and all family to move USA. And also they want the house have a new house and good condition, then they can have better life quality. Then regarding the construction, I don't think so. They need to consider because I already built a couple house on San Marino these 2 years. We don't have any problem about the neighborhood or something. We will follow city skyline to every day is 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock to finish all the stuff. We will try to do the job as soon as possible. We are not being on San Marino. We'll be on lot Arcadia, Temple City, San Gabriel, Rosemead, all San Marino area. We're really confident about the construction time and we try to control it. Then if the neighborhood, they have any comment, they want me to collaboration, I think we will coordination with them to try to our best to coordination other neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Do we have any other members of the public to come and speak for or against about this project? Seeing none in person, is there anyone online, staff?
Is there anyone online who would like to make a public comment? You can use the raise hand feature. Seeing none.
All right, thank you very much. Given that have no one else present to make any comments, we will close the public portion comment of this hearing and then move on to the commissioner discussions. Commissioner Dustin.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off with just a concern I have about the notification process. I did have a fairly extensive conversation with one of the neighbors to this project who indicated not receiving plans after the original two-story proposal, which was quite some time ago. And it was interesting to hear the applicant say that the city had received electronic verification of receipt. So that's what I'm used to seeing. I use certified mail every day in my work, and there's two parts to it. There's the white sheet, which city staff has Xeroxed all of these and put them in the packet for us. And then there's these, or you can get an electronic, I guess, if you like, I like paper, so I always do the paper request. But I would suggest in the future, we figure out a way to put the verification of receipt in the packet, not the verification of mailing. Because I went ahead and went down to the post office and had a long chat with the postman and annoyed all the people in line behind me. And then I went and looked up every single tracking number. Well, I didn't have time to do all of them, so I did all the ones on the second notification process. Of those 8 notices, all of them, except for 2, were listed as not yet delivered. And 2 of them were listed as status unavailable. So I'm just a little concerned that we still have loopholes in the notification system. But I just would like to really be able to sort of tighten that up. And I don't know, I don't have any suggestions for that. On to the house itself. Again, it's actually for I don't know if the original 2-story iteration went to DRC, but this house right out of the gate, I don't recall ever seeing this property in this body. But I think it's a good job. I really don't have any comments about the house itself. Again, my concerns all have to do with the landscaping and the trees. I'm really concerned about that oak tree that is actually not on the subject property. It's on the neighbor's property to the east. It's an oak tree, and I do take note that the new house is going to have a much greater setback. But again, it's a substantial oak tree, and the foundation is going to encroach within 15 feet of the trunk. So I just would like to really make sure that there's something in the conditions that there is an arborist who's watching when they're trenching and doing that work. Because that's a very valuable asset for the neighbor. And if they lose it because of this work, they're the ones who are taking the financial hit on it. And then my last point, again, the house is fine. I don't have any problems with it. Not even the lighting. The lighting is fine. But I would like to see one more tree added to the landscape plan in consultation with city staff.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Commissioner Dustin. Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, this is, I echo the same thoughts as to the house and design. I don't have any negative comments on it. Here we're losing another fern pine. I was just wondering, over time, we lose trees, some of them that are in great shape. And unfortunately, they don't fit into the new design. Is there some way maybe we can post something that would allow to say, hey, I'd like to adopt this tree. I'll take the expense of removing it or partially adopt the expense of removing it and have it moved to my location. And because many of these trees are mature, and to get a new mature tree costs a lot of money. What is your thought on that, Laura?
I think for the purposes of this particular project, that's something that's not under their purview. However, one of the things that Public Works and Community Development will do at one point is revisit the tree preservation ordinance. And I think the I guess tree adoption idea could be something that we could institute or at least present to the city council at the appropriate time. So I do welcome that comment and we'll present it at the appropriate time.
I appreciate that. I really think we ought to be doing that because first of all, it's going to probably wind up somewhat less in terms of cost, and we're saving mature trees. Other than that, I have no problem in terms of lending my approval to this project.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. Well, as the neighbor stated, this property doesn't look very good right now. So certainly this project will be a vast improvement, and take the speaker's word that it's going to be that the residents will be actually living there and not renting, which I think would also be a great addition to the neighborhood. So I hope that's true and remains true. I like it. I like the house. It's a modest house on a small lot, and I think it's done a good job in that regard. Not a big fan of the rear yard. It just seems like a lot of concrete to me with that driveway. I don't know what the answer is, although I didn't ask staff this, and this is one of my things, but looking at it, I didn't notice this when I looked at the property. But again, the prevailing setback of the front yard, it looks like it, and I'm wondering if, not that anybody would agree with me, but if we moved it up, and then that would give a little more rear yard and maybe more room for green instead of concrete. I don't know. It may be, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. And again, I didn't notice it when I was there. And speaking of concrete, I wonder if I could get people to maybe agree with me that we could, since it's greater than 25%, maybe to break up the concrete driveway with some natural material that matches the house, some kind of pavers or some kind of, instead of just solid concrete, just something that I think might look better and would again, so it's not just all solid concrete. I, for one, am in favor of very wide driveways. I'm a terrible driver, so I like wide driveways. So I get that, and it's not ridiculously wide, especially with bigger cars. But just the question of whether maybe we could break it up with some paving. I noticed our design guidelines talk about that as a possibility. So those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Okazaki.
Yes, I know. Okay. Commenting on Commissioner Brody's point about trying to save mature trees. If the city's really kind of committed to that, maybe city should pay half or part of the cost of some neighbor who wants to save the tree for the tree's sake. They are living things, and that people I know love trees, saving trees. But I think mature trees very expensive to remove and to transport. So even though somebody might want to save it, it's going to be too much of a financial burden. So unless the city's willing to put up or sort of shut up, I think they should consider that. Anyway, that's just my point. I like the fact that the 3-car garage is being reduced to 2. The size of the buildings, size of being squeezed in, so they got more space between the neighbors on both sides. You're not coming up anymore in the front, even though the building is gonna look a little bit different. I think it's great. Unfortunately, the tree is going to be gone, but it's gonna be, we're gonna put 2 instead of 1. So we're losing 1 heritage tree, but we're getting 2 trees that will eventually grow to be huge. Hopefully, they won't damage the house or the pool. So I think the location of it should be looked at, because just looking at the plan, it looks like it's right next to the property line or the wall on one of the tree locations. So I mean, I noticed posting around San Marino nowadays where tree removals are going up all over because the trees have grown too close to the foundations. And so I just want to make sure this tree in the back, and I know you're going to review it before the final plan is approved. So I recommend that we do that here. My comment is that I like this project. I think it's a great project. It's going to really improve the neighborhood. I have friends that live on Euclid, so that's right around the corner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I echo a lot of the same sentiments that the other commissioners have made already, so I'm not going to get into it. I think overall, the ones that are relevant are the ones that the property is consistent with the neighborhood, and that there is additional setbacks being added with the new iteration of the home. I am supportive of the comment that Commissioner Wright made to somewhat break up the concrete driveway in order to not be just a vast concrete desert there. And I also am supportive of some monitoring while they excavate within the drip line and the canopy of the oak tree that to the neighbor to the, I believe that's the north, east, sorry, in order to protect and preserve the oak tree. Otherwise, I can support the project as submitted.
Can I ask a couple clarifying questions?
Sure.
Again, I don't have the full packet printed out in front of me, so is that I can't remember now from what was in the electronic packet. Is there a specific condition, a standard condition for observation of the trenching for the foundation when they're doing that work near that oak tree? Is that part of the tree protection plan?
So there are tree protection recommendations with the submitted arborist report. There isn't a condition that staff is adding per se, but in general, the city has standard language for tree protections in regards to construction that's within the code that the applicant would have to abide by. But to be super safe, the planning commission can also add a condition where the arborist should be present for the trenching of or anything resulting in the foundation that would be an issue for any of the trees on site.
Okay. And then just to Commissioner Brody and Commissioner Okazaki's comments on the sadness about losing the trees. We do have a solution to that. That is right here in the residential design guidelines, where it clearly says that it is strongly discouraged for new house construction where you're starting with a clean slate. You work around the trees that are there and you come up with a design that accommodates them. So we can always just say no to a design. Just thought I'd put that out there. So, and I agree with Commissioner Wright's comments on the permeability. That's one of my concerns why I was asking for the extra tree, because there's just a lot of hardscaping. So,
all right. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve DR 2123 and DR 23-92 at 465 Buena Vista Street with the standard conditions noted by staff, and with the additional condition that the applicant will work with staff to come up with a a way to incorporate more permeable material in the front yard hardscape plan. And is there any support for an additional tree, or am I on my own on that? All right, and that's it.
All right, Commissioner
I second.
Dustin with the motion and Commissioner Okazaki with the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Dustin,
Yes.
Commissioner Okazaki,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair Chang.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 for approval.
All right, thank you.
very much. Good night.
Moving right along to new business, our agenda item number 4. This is for the determination of the front yard for the corner lot located at 900 Orlando Place. Staff report, please.
The purpose of, for the record, this is Assistant Planner Savag Sasunian. The purpose of this item is for the Planning Commission to make a determination on the front yard of the property at 900 Orlando Place. The property owner's representative met with staff to discuss the regulations required for a residential addition. In the process of providing the standard regulations, the applicant wanted clarification as to how setbacks would apply because the subject property has an irregular shape. The lot is shaped like a rounded obtuse triangle. It has 3 property lines and not the customary 4 property lines found on a typical rectangular shaped lot where it would be easier to determine where the front property line is located. Staff determined that the entire portion of the lot line along Orlando Place is considered the front lot line since there is no clear side with a smaller frontage. Additionally, staff could not find any provision in the city code that supports bifurcating a continuous continuous property line to delineate 2 property lines. Therefore, the standard setbacks for this area district apply. They are 40 feet for the front and rear sides and 40 feet for the front and rear yards and 20 feet from the side yard. Currently, the single family residence is set back 40 feet from the lot line adjacent to Orlando Place. The property owner disagrees with staff's determination. The homeowner has requested that the commission make a determination to consider the portion of Orlando Place where it intersects with Orlando Road, going east approximately 2/3 of the lot line parallel to Orlando Place as the front property line, and the remainder 1/3 portion, the side property line. The commission can reference the example site plan on attachment 1 and staff's diagram with the annotations on attachment 5 as a visual reference. On a corner lot, the commission has the ability to determine that a different side of the lot be considered the front yard as stated in the code. To quote the code verbatim, on a corner lot, the front yard shall be adjacent to the street on which the lot has the smaller frontage. Deviation from this section shall require commission approval. The commission may determine that a different side of the lot be considered the front yard, provided that they make necessary findings. Interestingly, the code does not specify the findings that need to be made. Usually we'll have something that says, by the issuance of a conditional use permit. It doesn't say that for this. Therefore, the findings for design review or conditional use permits or variances aren't required to be made. However, the commission should state the reasoning for its determination. The determination will indicate how a future project will be reviewed by staff. The homeowner may decide after this determination how to design a potential future project. We have not received a formal submittal at this time. That completes staff's report. Staff is available to answer any questions, and the applicant and the homeowner are present in case you have any clarifying questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff from commissioners? I do have one question to staff. I believe in one of the materials provided, supplemental materials provided, there was an highlight or an outline of a potential addition on this home. Is that correct?
Yes, so on attachment 1.
Right.
On the second sheet of that plan, it gives an example, maybe something that the homeowner and the applicant or the representative of the homeowner might choose to design in such a way. So for example, right now, based on staff's determination, that would be the front yard and they would need a variance.
So was that provided to us purely as illustration, or is that something that the applicant has intention, and do we have any purview to consider that? I guess is my question to staff and city attorney.
No, there's no project, so therefore there's no consideration. It could have been something that they're contemplating. You could ask the question to the representative.
This document was provided by the applicant,
Yes.
not by staff.
Correct.
As an illustration.
Correct.
Okay. So that was my question. Any other questions? Thank you. No.
I just wanted to confirm. So you're saying if we agreed with your interpretation and they wanted to build on that side of the property that would now be a 20-foot setback, they would need a variance. Did I say that
So
articulately? Why don't you say it for me?
to clarify, if you reference that example and they were to propose something like that with the project, currently with staff's determination, that's considered the front. So to build that way coming towards Orlando Place, it would require a variance because it encroaches in the front yard setback area. If you were to determine otherwise and consider that a side yard, a 20-foot setback would apply, which I believe is along the east elevation of the home. So it would allow them to build or consider building that way without a variance. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Oksaki.
So you're sure that there are no other property similar to this condition anywhere in the city of San Marino?
Staff is not familiar with any specific lot with this irregular shape. I'm not exactly sure if there are. It's possible, but I'm not sure.
I used to live in Alhambra on a circle, inside of a circle, and mine wasn't exactly like this, but there was an issue of front or the side. I didn't build out, except when I went to the city, I said I wanted to put up a side wall. Wanted to put up a 6-foot wall. And because it was the side of the house, I mean, the front was clear, but the side came around and it was almost straight. I considered it a side and I argued with staff and they said,
Commissioner Okazaki, let's reserve our comments when we have commissioner discussions. You can express your opinion on the matter at that time.
all right.
But if you have questions relevant to staff being able to provide you an answer, you're welcome to ask them the question.
So my question was, what are there any other, and you're saying not to the staff's knowledge, but it doesn't mean that there isn't any other locations in the city that are like this. That's all I'm trying to point out.
And just to add to that, we also have to consider that some of these homes were built prior to our zoning ordinance being adopted. So there probably were not the standard practices that we practice now. So there could be some differences there based on when the zoning ordinance was adopted.
Any other questions from the commission to staff? All right, seeing none, is the applicant present? If you could please come forward and state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Jack Bien, 465 South Detroit Street, Los Angeles, California.
Are you the homeowner or are you the representative or?
I am the architect.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So if you can please explain to us or just briefly explain the request that you're requesting before Planning Commission.
Sure. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I think I'm happy to answer any other questions as well. The lot is very unique and I have never encountered something like this. After hearing all your comments and ideas about tonight's projects, I will say that, you know, whatever the intent of the owner going forward with this project, or may not go forward with this project, as an architect, I think I am very much responsible for making sure that the expansion will be conforming to any the ideas of the values of San Marino. So at this point, yeah, we are trying to make clarifications on the setback. The location of the front door on the plan is may not be too obvious, but it is if you can spot it on my drawing here, is right at the red dot, if you can see clearly. So that will be the entrance for the main house, and where we are asking is at the end of the driveway leading along the main entrance.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah,
From
I just have a question. So what is your basis for saying that the front yard should be split at this location?
In a very, well, typically the front yard would be on a shorter property line, and that would entails the front of the house facade and the front facade having the front door, and the side yard being a smaller
So you're
setback.
basing it on the front door rather than the lot, if you will, or
Yeah.
Commissioner Wright, did you have further questions or just?
No, sorry, I was just going,
Okay.
I was going back to the code section
Sure.
about what we have to, it says on a corner lot, the front yard shall be adjacent to the street on which the lot has the smaller frontage. And so what are you saying is the lot with the smaller frontage?
In this case, there's not a direct point where the lot lines turns the corner, where there's not an angle, like a 90-degree angle.
Right.
But sort of abstractly simplifying the geometry of the road, where it starts to curve, that was the point where we pinpointed.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from commissioners?
Yeah, so from gathering is the point that you as an architect is contemplating possible a project with the owner, and that you want a condition set before you start, whether you actually have a side yard or not. Is that simply put?
Whether I have
A side yard or not? Or is it all front yard?
it'll be crucial to make clear of this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to get us to decide for you.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much. I'll now open it to public comment. If there's any members of the public who'd like to speak for or against about this project, now would be the time. Seeing nobody, is anyone? Okay, seeing no one present, is everyone online? Okay, no one online either. We will close the public comment portion of this hearing and move on to commissioner discussions. Commissioner Okazaki.
Well, you know, if they had built the building differently on this project, it would have been easier to make that determination, which is the front yard or the side yard. But look like they built their project assuming that the entire the hypotenuse of the triangle there would be the front yard. I mean, they kind of set themselves up for this condition that we have. They could have built it differently, the building, I'm saying, 50 years ago, that could have made it easier for us to determine which is the side yard or the front yard. But you see what I'm saying? They built it along this axis, the hypotenuse of a triangle of the property. So how do you divide a hypotenuse of a triangle? To say which side of the triangle is a side yard versus another side yard. You divide this, and what they did was they kind of divided the hypotenuse of a triangle in half, and they said the right half is a side yard and the left half is the front yard. I don't know if that's right. I mean, should every property in the city have a front and a side yard, or front and a side? If that's the case, then it's incumbent on us to determine in this case which side is. But are we required to provide that definition that every property has a front yard and a side yard, or a front and a side? You say that there's no regulation right now that clarifies that. So we're having to make that determination. We stick to the guns with the existing condition, or are we being unfair to this particular property owner who somehow bought this property? He didn't build it. Somebody else built this project on this lot that kind of put him in a precarious condition here where he can't make well, he could, as long as he stays behind 40 feet or whatever, but he can't take the benefit of other properties who could come closer to that side yard line, right? So anyway, I'm running around in a circle here.
And giving us a geometry lesson.
So
I was never good at
Commissioner
geometry.
Okazaki, is that your comments, or do you have more to?
Those are my comments
Okay.
right now, because I'm kind of
You're
not sure. I'm not sure
All right.
if we are required as a city to define that every property has a.
Let's listen to the rest of the commissioners, and maybe it'll clarify or illuminate some of the additional viewpoints. Commissioner Wright, do you have any comments?
Yes, I think what Commissioner Okazaki has been discussing really sets up a good variance. And variance findings that I'm familiar with, I always have to give the director a hard time about the way San Marino does it, but talk a lot about lots and how a lot is unique and why it would call for a variance. And I could absolutely see this being a perfect situation. Not that I'm prejudging anything, because I don't have a project in front of me, but here's one that really does set up well, it seems to me, for a variance. Because I'm saying, as far as going forward, interpreting this code section, after I stopped laughing with the fact that it says that we make necessary findings and there are none. So also I have to give the director a hard time because he insists that he's going to amend this code, and I give him full credit, shall he do so. And here's one to definitely put an asterisk by and definitely amend, because you're going to have to either let the planning commission know what kind of findings, either reference conditional use or variance or determination type findings, or just say something like what I think we're going to have to do, any reasonable basis. So I think that's what we're left here with, is that if we do determine there's a different side of the lot be considered it, we need to make findings and give some kind of reasonable basis. And that's where I guess I kind of struggle, because for me, I look at this as more reviewing with staff, and I'm used to the staff enforcing the code and determining things, and I like to step in and see if I disagree with the staff and have a basis for disagreeing with the staff. And here, when I look at it saying the front yard shall be adjacent to the street on which the lot has the smaller frontage, and there is no lot with the smaller frontage, it's all that very strange Orlando Place. It's all Orlando Place. It is a very unique, it's not a corner lot. I mean, it's on a corner, but it's not a corner lot. That's strange. I can't imagine we have a lot of them in our city. So for me, although I'm sympathetic and I understand the argument, I think I understand the staff's position better. And I think should the applicant want to come forward with a proposal that does something different, a variance makes a lot of sense to me.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Dustin.
I 100% concur with staff. There's nothing that I see here in the ordinance or the code section that would call for this. And I concur with Commissioner Wright. The appropriate remedy for anything that the homeowner may want to do is a variance. Come up with a project and request a variance. Simple as that.
Thank you, Commissioner Dustin. Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, variances are very, very tough to get. The standard is very high. The finding that I'd like to make is that we don't expose the applicant to the variance process and we somehow work around it as best we can. I don't see shooting ourselves in the foot by creating that as well as the foot of the applicant. Jerry, you've done
Yeah,
a lot
and
of
I
this stuff.
respect-
I
know.
have
I
too, but
respectfully
not
disagree.
quite
I
you.
respectfully disagree. Cities make variance findings every day, and yes, you're right. Most of them probably cannot be defended if they. I mean, a lot of them could not be. Here, if there, I so rarely say this, but here, if there were ever an example for a variance, this is it.
Yeah.
It could not be more unique. And variance findings are all based on the lot. And the problem is the applicants come in constantly and talk about, oh, woe is me, because I want, this and I can't have it. Nah, that's not what a variance is for. A variance is about the lot.
But are we setting ourselves up for litigation?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, and by the way, we could say no to the variance and we're in the same spot we are right now.
Yeah, that could
If,
be.
I'm not prejudging by any stretch of the imagination,
Yeah.
because we do not have a project in front of us. And I'm just saying that an unusual lot is a huge basis for a request for
Right.
a variance. That doesn't mean they will do a good project. That we would like the variance that they're asking for, et cetera. I mean, again,
Uniqueness is a key factor for getting a variance.
for me.
Yeah,
the-
you're right.
the-
We don't usually see that.
No,
when we
variances
have-
are rare. I totally agree with you. This, and I don't know why we're asking me. We really should ask staff, not to prejudge, but just in general to talk about variances and the basis. I don't have the variance findings in front of me. And so I am kind of going by memory. You're testing me, but my memory is very much based on the lot.
Yeah, I would just caution the planning commission, what's before you is
Right,
determination of
absolutely.
the front property line and whether you agree with staff, the applicant, or you have your own determination.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But to specifically just address the variance, yes, there are rare, and yes, one of the mandated findings is that there's a unique aspect to the parcel, not the project, but the parcel.
That's right.
And so if we were to have a variance application before you, in order for staff to make a finding to meet that, there would have to be a special circumstance. And so, but that would be in general, but I would recommend that we don't speak about a variance for this particular project.
Agreed. We were just speaking generally.
The elephant in the room that we're not talking about.
We're just speaking generally.
Well, we can talk about this home on this property. That's what we can talk about.
The existing home.
This,
not
the
what's
existing
made.
home. That's, I'm, when I get to my comments, I'll blow your guys' mind.
Mm,
So you just.
I
you
can't
just-
wait.
Commissioner Brody, do you have any,
I have nothing.
nothing to add, nothing to say?
Add, and I'm waiting to hear some
Yeah.
pearls
Yeah,
of wisdom from you.
All right. I'll say some pieces. So the home is unique and it's the topography dictates how this home was designed at a time when there may have been no, zoning laws and setback requirements. And so the architect in all his knowledge and ability placed the home in the orientation location where it did. Just so happens, and I don't think it's by happenstance, that the 40-yard setback, 40-foot setback, aligns across the entirety of the quote unquote front of the home. The one that I would say would blow your mind is, well, what if the architect had designed a circular home, a round home? Then there is no front, theoretically, right? And there is no side that aligns with our code section where the one side is longer than the other, and therefore they would hold that the 40-foot setback is exactly what it should be. If the architect had built the home, or the homeowner at the time had built the home and encroached upon that 40-foot, then we would have an existing non-conforming condition, right? Which is, it is what it is, meaning that if they were to change, they would have to conform to the 40-foot setback or have a variance if that was the approach. What we are being asked and tasked to evaluate here is, I believe, to look at the property as it exists today and the way it was constructed. We don't have a project before us to scrutinize or evaluate or see if it meets certain requirements to be compatible with the neighborhood or itself. Therefore, a future proposal could very much well not encroach and define where the front and side of the home is, and that would provide additional criteria. I think on the merits of this home, the way it's situated and what is being presented to us and what is being asked of us to determine, I believe the staff's determination of the front property line is as it should be, with the 40-foot setback, which runs along Orlando Place. That's my opinion.
And a 40-foot setback is the required setback.
That
for
is correct.
For
this property.
For that property.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure if where the house is situated matters, though, for our decision. I mean, looking at the code section. On a corner lot, the front yard shall be adjacent to the street.
I guess my point more so was that the home, as how it aligns along Orlando Place, has a 40-foot setback along the face of the home.
Got it.
And that face matches up with the rest of Orlando Place.
Thank you. Okay.
That's
Now-
what I'm saying.
Thank you. Now I understand better. Thank you.
And they very carefully step
That's right.
that whole thing
Along that
around
line.
that curve.
That's correct.
Yeah.
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 So I think if the architect who built it, when was this home built?
Once upon a time.
We did some quick research and it appears that it was between
1940s.
1960, 60.
So whoever the architect was that constructed in 1960, I believe thought that a setback of 40-foot along the entirety along Orlando Place was appropriate,
Right.
which is what staff has found. And I agree with that same sentiment that staff has found, as well as the architectural integrity of the property that was constructed at that time. So that's my finding. Do we have a motion?
Further discussion, please. This property is triangular, close as possible. It's more triangular than square. Usually the properties typically square. Except when you're looking at a circle, it's more of a triangle. So this is more like a triangle, right?
I would challenge you, how would you construct any portion of the home on the, I guess, I'm gonna say the left side of the property line? No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
So if you were to construct a home,
Triangle that I was referring to.
that's right.
This area, the house is built behind this, but.
Well, it's not, I mean,
But I want to point out that typically a lot parcel it's got 4 sides.
that's right.
This one only has 3 sides. But the owner has 2 sides where he takes the benefit of the side requirement. In other words, only 20 feet or whatever, right? He has 2 sides that he benefits, so he goes flush against that. That's the 2 backside of the triangle here. But in the front, it's a hypotenuse of a triangle, and he has to follow the existing rule, which is 40 feet back, and that's where we are. That's where the house was built by the architect, following the existing rules, the regulations that existed. So the only solution for the owner is come for a variance. It might be difficult, but it might be a great project that the commissioners could approve. So we can't prejudge. We don't see the side. You only have two sides as a back
Oh,
and one in the front.
Just to remind,
It's not a
the public-
discussion,
the
right?
Public hearing is closed. There's no discussion.
Okay.
I'd like to ask how an appropriate motion would be worded. Because we don't, give me an example.
I think just simply acknowledging that the commission agrees with staff.
Finding of the 40.
Correct.
That the property line exists at the 40-foot setback.
Can I take a stab at a motion?
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move that the planning commission make the determination that the staff's interpretation of the municipal code is correct and that there is a 40-foot setback along the existing front property line of the project property.
Motion from Commissioner Dustin. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Wright with a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brody? Yes. Commissioner Dustin?
Yes.
Commissioner Okazaki?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
And Chair Chang?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 for
Thank you.
upkeeping the staff's determination.
I understood it better.
All right, now moving on to our consent agenda items. Can we do that? Do we have to go one by one or can we do them all? That's why I thought. Yeah, if we can do consent, do we have a motion to approve?
I
consent?
move that we approve all the previously
items on the consent
five
count.
through
8.
8 on the
Well, approval, any comments on the minutes?
Oh.
Did anyone have any comments on the minutes?
No.
including the
Okay.
minutes.
Including the
item 9,
minutes.
on the consent calendar.
Do we have a,
Approved.
do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Commissioner Dustin?
Yes.
Commissioner Okazaki?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
And Chair Chang?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0 for approval.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the last item is director's report. Director, is there anything you'd like to report out to us?
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of items. I'll try to be as efficient as I can. First off, staff will be presenting a moratorium extension for the artificial turf. That would allow staff additional 10 months to study the item and prepare some regulations. However, the governor did sign Senate Bill 676, which would be effective to start of next year, which would actually allow cities to prohibit artificial turf. So can't prohibit the installation of artificial turf. So if that's the pleasure of the city council, obviously the city council will direct staff to come back with its own text amendment that would reflect that. Secondly, the city council will hear on November 8th an appeal of a planning commission approval of El Dorado restaurant, which is across the street. The appellant appealed on the basis of the conditional use permit for the determination on parking. There were actually 2 CUPs, but only one was filed, and that was just for the parking. And again, that will be on November 8th. And one of the items that the direction that the city council can take is they could either affirm, require more information, have a de novo hearing themselves, or they could actually bring it back to planning commission. So that could actually come back to you at some point in some iteration. And then also next Wednesday, November 1st, DRC will have a meeting exclusively to discuss the re-roof pre-approved materials list. Hopefully that will provide a recommendation to planning commission. And so therefore, we'll probably have that for you at the start of next year, if that were to happen on November 1st. One of the things that I wanted to ask the commission, during the last meeting, there was some discussion about not including all of the previously reviewed documents on continuing items. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you would have to review. You already reviewed it. We did not include it in your packet. What we did is, if you recall on the staff report, we made a reference of included them on a supplemental packet so that you have the option to go online and look at that. Did that actually help you out? Would you prefer that? Yes.
Yes, I
I
liked it.
did reference to the amendment, the supplemental materials that were provided.
Now,
I also liked that you said, like, basically the first sentence, this item is continued from such and such.
Yes,
So I
that is
think,
very helpful.
right,
Yeah,
I think
that
both of
helped.
those things really helped. But did you say somewhere that the supplemental was? You didn't, I'm trying to say, how do I say this? Did you somehow say when you continued to say, I think it might be nice to say, this item is continued from the planning commission meeting of blank. There's a supplemental agenda, that has the prior, has the other information or something like that. So everybody will know that the supplemental information is additional or.
Yeah, so in the way I wrote the 1408 staff report, the first sentence said it was continued from planning commission meeting. If you go down further in the history, there I mentioned you can find documents 1 through 5, which is the old staff reports and the old plans that got appealed in the supplemental documents. I didn't put it in the same
Okay,
phrase.
That's funny because I saw that, but I don't think I realized what that meant.
So we'll do a better job of making sure that whenever we have that situation, then we'll make it clear where you can find it and what the purpose is.
Now that I know that's probably fine, but I'm also thinking about the public, just to make sure the public
Yes.
understands it as well.
And we'll, it was also pointed out by one of our esteemed council members that it wasn't as easy to retrieve on the online agenda webpage. So we'll do a better job of that. We work with the vendor, so we know how we know what we need to do to make it better. So
Well,
we
thank you.
we
Thanks
appreciate
for
that.
doing it so quickly.
We appreciate that. And then 2 more items. One, just a reminder, again, for all of us, we don't have an audience right now, but for all of us, for all of our residents, if they can please come and speak to staff prior to making any changes to the approved plans. Again, I know this is repetitive, but I keep on having these awkward conversations with our residents. I'm really sympathetic, but at the same time, rules are rules and I can't not bypass them. So I'm not able to, like in other cities, make approved changes, certain changes. Most of these have to come back to the original determining body. So again, please just consult with staff prior to making any changes. And lastly, as we had previously discussed, the next meeting is scheduled for November 22nd, which is the day before Thanksgiving. So is the pleasure of the commission to have that meeting at that date or have a special meeting in November? And if you're considering a special meeting in November, these are some dates that staff gathered in terms of when this particular site is open and also not in conflict with any other meetings. So, and I can send an email, staff can send an email just to make sure you have these dates and you can look at your agendas to see if you can make any of these. But open dates are Tuesday, November 21st, Monday, November 27th, Tuesday, November 28th, and Wednesday, November 29th. Again, we'll send these in an email, but if you can look at your calendars.
And Thanksgiving this year is on the 23rd. Is that what it is?
23rd.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no opportunity for any earlier in the month. No, even beyond then on the I guess that's coming up. I mean, like the 13th, the week of the 13th.
That's the week of DRC and
So, well, there's a couple of things. One, it's other meetings,
right?
And 2, it's noticing. And so, I know that one of the items that we're bringing to you is the ADU ordinance amendment. So it's just basically making sure that we're conforming to the state regulations. And so that would have to be notice, newspaper notice. So we would have to have a definite date. And so these kind of match that particular schedule.
Well, I would think it might matter if we have a December meeting because, you want to have some space, some opportunity for staff to, like you say, notice and
That's
do
right.
things. So we could do it the week after
After
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving,
if
right.
we're not going to have a December, but otherwise then you maybe,
I think
go into
we
December.
traditionally don't have a December, right?
Traditionally, that's correct.
Right.
And that's actually another thing that staff wanted to bring up. So we typically Plan Commission doesn't have a December meeting, but if we have projects that come before you in November, for example, I think we do have a couple of them, then that means I have to wait until January for you to consider the resolution. So one of the things staff wanted to see if you were amenable to an early December meeting, that would just be simply to review resolutions that might be approved on the November meeting. So there wouldn't be any other hardcore projects.
Any other agenda items?
Right, it
besides
would just simply
consent?
be the resolutions.
Right.
Do that remotely?
No.
We're
So
not given that authority anymore.
commissioners, you want to discuss it now, or you want to have an email sent out to us and we revert our responses back to staff?
Right now, I have no personal life, so I'm available for any
Yeah.
date.
I'm flexible based on the dates you gave. I'm not totally flexible based on the dates you gave. I'm flexible.
What were the dates again?
Tuesday, November 21st, Monday, November 27th, Tuesday, November 28th, Wednesday, November 29th.
Okay.
That's my preference too, but
I prefer before Thanksgiving as well. Yeah.
That's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Okay.
So are we all on for the?
We haven't talked to our vice chair,
oh, yeah.
absent. So maybe we don't, do we have, we
Let's
obviously
have
don't have to.
let's have a
decide now,
primary and secondary, right? So primary recommendation would be 21st.
Yeah.
Secondary, can we say the 27th, 28th?
Either of those is fine with me, but
Mondays or Tuesday? What's better for the
Well,
majority?
the question is if anybody's going to be traveling, maybe the Monday isn't great. I don't know if anybody's.
Did you say the 29th was an option as well?
Correct.
So, as a Wednesday, this is Wednesday, so let's call it the primary, it would be 21st, and the secondary 29th.
Okay.
Is that?
Is that okay with you? Good, okay. We're hopefully the primary, yeah.
I'll send an email. I'll send an email to everyone.
Okay.
And we'll look at a potential December date that again will just be for
special meeting, right.
special meeting just for resolutions.
Okay.
And just thank you so much for running such an efficient meeting. I think this is an example of the meetings that, hopefully we'll have in the upcoming meetings. And so, but it was a great meeting. So we appreciate that. I know there were a lot of projects and we appreciate the efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No written communications or public distributions at this time?
No.
All right, thank you very much. We will now adjourn the meeting and we'll meet you again next month. Thank you very much, everybody.
all right.
You made a valiant effort, Jay.
Are you gonna follow me?